They say grow up to be happy, but what does that really mean? Is it really something that we have to achieve, earn, or learn? Or is it something that we've always had? Have you ever seen a baby sleeping? Seeing how precious, quiet, and calm the baby is? The truth is, we are all born with inner peace, and with the constructs of society, demands, our instincts to survive, it's taken away from us. The secret is to unlearn everything and to regain it back. My name is John, and Inner Atlas is a channel where I focus on finding deeper purpose, meaning, and connection. In this video, I'll talk about what inner peace really is, why it's so hard to find it, and some realistic things that we can do to find it. So the best way I can describe inner peace is a state of calm, quietness, and contentment. It is a place where there is no mental chatter, no excess stimulation, and no disturbing emotions such as excitement, fear, anger, and beyond. It is a state where one is fully in the present moment and there is no pain or suffering. Inner peace is like a fresh, clean feeling, kind of similar to the start of spring or a early summer morning where the birds are chirping and the grass is green and the sprinklers are on. It is where one is in unison with all living things, including nature, animals, and the universe. But why is it so hard to find inner peace? We live in a world where there's so much stimulation and everything is vying for your attention. Compare Times Square during New Year's Eve to being on a quiet beach in the summertime where there's nobody there. One setting has people, lights, stimulation, loud music, TV screens, while the other one has ocean waves, shuffling back and forth, moving to the cadence of your breath. We live in a time where businesses thrive off of people's attention, and companies spend countless hours trying to find the latest technology. Consumers feel compelled and coerced to keep up with the latest trend while having FOMO. But you may have realized that the thrill of obtaining the latest gadgets does not last for long. You see, being distracted and overstimulated does not equal inner peace. Actually, it's a distraction from it and the opposite of what you need to do to find it. Having inner peace is demonstrated by the ability to sit calmly without the need for stimulation. Next, we live in a world that is centered around work and achievement. When I was growing up, I believed that I was not enough unless I achieved something significant in my lifetime. I started having this idea that if I was sitting around for too long, I would be wasting time that could be otherwise spent working on projects or being productive. And after I kept pushing myself for years, obtaining a bachelor's degree, 2 master's degree, and a doctor's degree, I realized that I did not have more inner peace now compared to when I first started. Actually, I feel like I may have less inner peace. We are also very addicted as a society and a culture. We are addicted to screens, caffeine, sugar, and in the times of low stimulation, such as times where we're driving or in the shower, we either blast our music or become addicted to rumination or thinking excessively. In the absence of stimulation, people tend to think and overthink to try to fill the void. Some people think that thinking may not be an addiction, but thinking can elicit emotions such as real triggers in the real world as well. For example, if you started thinking about food, you'll probably start feeling hungry. Or if you thought about your last major achievement, you'll feel the joy and happiness from doing it. But the issue with thinking is that you can't just avoid the negative thoughts. When you start engaging with the positive thoughts, you also engage with the negative ones. And that's where feelings such as anxiety, fear, and sadness come in. I remember during times where I had negative feelings such as guilt, shame, embarrassment, I would always have this obsessive thought of playing football because it was an activity that made me happy and joyful, and I used it as a defense mechanism for these negative emotions. As a result of that, I never learned how to deal with these negative emotions, and for many years I continued to use these thoughts to deal with it rather than learning how to sit with these emotions. So how do we find inner peace? Well, the first thing we have to do is to create an environment that is conducive to inner peace. Buddhist monks created monasteries that was located away from society so that they could really focus on inner peace. These places are generally quiet and calm, with very little stimulation or noise. They're often located in nature and or on mountaintops so that they can connect with the earth. And because they're not constantly exposed to commercials of fancy cars, burgers, restaurants, or seeing people with expensive houses, they usually have little to no desire for these things. This frees them from the need to chase these things and allows them to get closer to inner peace. I'm not saying that we have to give up everything and move to the jungle or start living in a remote monastery. What I am saying is there are things we can take away from how Buddhist monks live and apply them to our own environment so that we can find a more quiet and calm place. Some things I could think of that might be helpful include living in an area that is relatively quiet, such as a calm and quiet neighborhood. Other things you might be able to do is to clean your house, because having a room or a house that is dirty or full of clutter leads to internal chaos as well. You might spend some time in nature to do some hiking, some mountaineering, to do some camping, kayaking. This will allow you to breathe in some fresh air and get a new perspective. Last year I did a 4-day hike in Machu Picchu with my girlfriend in Peru. And I remember at the start of the hike, I was feeling very nervous and worried, thinking about everything I had to get done back at home. But as we continue to go on this hike, I found my energy and mind slowly start to come back to the present moment. And by the third and fourth day, I noticed that I was feeling a lot more calm, even though I was so tired from all the walking. My mind was at peace. One thing that really helped me decompress is that we lost service to our phones during the hike. So it kind of forced me to be in nature and be in the present moment. The next way to find inner peace is to engage in mindful activities. This can include taking mindful walks, engaging in calligraphy, making tea, or doing anything that requires you to be in the moment. Tasks such as calligraphy can be relaxing because making the strokes with the pen or brush that you're using requires you to be in the moment and be fully concentrated. Because you are so concentrated on writing, it will take you away from all the worries and stress you might be feeling. The next point is important, but I'm not going to get too much into it because I feel like I talk about it a lot in my previous videos, is to decrease all the noise and stimulation. For example, social media, video games, videos you might be watching. You might also even decrease the amount of physical stimulation in your life, such as limiting your use of going to parties or festivals or going to loud concerts, as these things are often chaotic. Pretty much anything that involves sensory and information overload will disturb your peace. The final and perhaps the most important point I wanted to talk about is to practice inner peace. As you may have guessed, this involves meditation. So meditation can be done in many ways, but the way I do it is by meditating 20 minutes every morning while listening to my breath and doing body scans. You might also listen to some calm music or some relaxing nature sounds. If you ever get a chance to meditate in nature, I highly recommend it because it makes you feel like you're connected to nature and gives you a lot of anchor points that you can focus your attention on when you're out there. All of these steps will help you heal your mind into something that is not overstimulated or addicted. Once you're able to decrease and eliminate some of the damaging behaviors that you may have learned and start practicing inner peace, you will be able to find a lot more calm and quiet. So I hope this video was useful to you, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye.